Hey, Jen, before we get started, I just want to say thank you very much for the inspection reports. Those are big help. Beth, would you be comfortable with me adding something to the unanticipated business?
No, that's fine.
Okay, great. Um, it looks like remote meetings are going to be continued to 2027. I just wanted to announce that. So
What's being continued?
the ability to have remote meetings, it was designed to sunset in 2025, and it looks like it's going to be continued another 2 years.
That's good.
It's good.
That is good. And the requirement to have it be hybrid, I know that was part of um the discussions that were going on with the state. I think you're muted.
I apologize. Yeah, I don't have any update on that, and I think probably MACC is in the state are going to make an announcement within the next week or so.
All right. I don't see mayor, so maybe we'll wait a few more minutes for mayor. There she is. Hi, Mayor.
Hi, Mayor.
All right. Looks like everybody's here. At 7 o'clock, March 27th, 2025. I'm calling this meeting of the Shutesbury Conservation Commission to order. This meeting's being recorded. Hope everybody's doing well. Scott can't make it tonight. Must be traveling somewhere. All right, so item one, comments from the chair. All I have is that the bundled NOI, the DPW bundled NOI, the applicant requested to continue it, so we'll go through that effort of continuing it at 7:45, but I just wanted to let anybody in the public who was interested in that project, we're just going to be continuing it tonight to our next meeting, which is April 10th. And also when we get to site visits, we'll set up a site visit for that. That's part of the reason why we continued it, so that we could do a couple good site visits before we talk about it again. And it looks like we have a relatively short meeting, so we should be able to get to the regulations tonight, which is good too. And that's all I have. So second on the agenda is to review and vote on the minutes of March 14th. Does everybody get a chance to look at those minutes? Does anybody have any comments or changes? Nope. All right. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes of March 14th, 2025.
I'd like to make a motion to approve that set of minutes.
Okay. Second,
I'll second.
great. Okay, Douglas,
Aye.
Rowan,
Aye.
Fox,
Aye.
and Wilson, aye. All right, next on the agenda, site visits. Jan,
So
what's going
site
on?
visits. We had a concern raised about a road drainage problem on Wendell Road. And Mayor and I went out and had a look. Sure enough, there is a big erosion runoff problem right about 539 Wendell Road. It was a situation where it was sort of a perfect storm. The ground was still frozen. We had a lot of snowpack, and we got that rainstorm a couple storms ago. And the runoff was huge. It didn't really get to run off into any of the sort of standard road cutoffs because of the snow. And a lot of it went down the homeowner's driveway and straight down their sidewalk, almost to their front door. And it was deep. It was quite deep, a little bit startling. Then it eroded out the left side of their driveway and took off through the woods and made it pretty much to the stream that is a perennial stream right downhill. So I think it's all fixable. It just needs to be identified to the highway department to put on their list and make sure they get that, squared away for future storms that come along.
And she's getting some help with cleaning up her yard, or
Well,
she's just
she
on her own?
communicated with the town, and I think she also spoke to the highway department. But our concern would be whether that sediment hits the stream or not, right?
Mhm.
So we might want to just mention that to Dave and, make sure it's on his list. I don't
Well,
know whether she's going to get help or not from the town.
Mhm.
Has asked for it.
yeah, I thought you mentioned she'd asked for it. Well, so Wendell Road, Dirt Wendell Road is the suggested area for our site visits for the bundled NOI. And I feel like if we could get 2 site visits in before the next meeting, when we talk with DPW more about their bundled NOI, that would be great. So that's where I'd like to start at least one of our site visits there. And so site visits will be with DPW and FERCog. So we can talk about all that. Then we can even, look at that area, which would be kind of the idea of the site visits.
That would be good because, we'll get to it before the stuff starts growing and it all disappears again for a time.
Yeah. And we can see where it's washing off of the roads.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was like 3 locations, so it would be good to do that.
Okay.
The next one was
Went
on the
really far.
What?
It
Is
went
that right?
really
Yeah.
far. Like
Yeah.
we were surprised how far it went off the road. Not only towards her house, above her house, at her front door, and then to looking at her house directly to the left. And I mean, it was a good 20, 30 feet, maybe even more. I'm not really sure how to estimate that, but it was really far.
And how deep was the sediment that got close to the stream?
Well, it tapered off as it got
Yeah.
closer. It, kind of, like kind of in a wide V, but I don't know. It's hard to tell. But it seemed like it was at least many inches deep. Didn't she say how much, how far, how much had come down right above her house, like right at her door?
Yeah, it was 2 or 3 steps deep. It was a lot of energy.
Yeah, wow.
I would
That's
have been very
crazy.
excited if it was my house.
Oh, that's horrible. Ugh. Well, yeah, we should look at it. We should look at the way the drainage is supposed to be acting on the road. Um, March is always the worst because of the snow and ice, like you were saying. Um, but we need to look at that.
She did say that this was the first time in like 30 years that she'd seen anything like that. But they had seen smaller versions of this, and they just need to, I think that the maintenance of the cutouts on the road and stuff, they weren't maintained, right? So,
Yeah, there's got to be some kind of like winter maintenance of them, like there's certainly summer maintenance where they go and clean out sediment so that there's room for them to keep taking in sediment, but there should be winter maintenance that's sort of in preparation for the horrible month of March where you get rain on top of snow and ice, and that's always when there's really big washouts and flooding and stuff.
she called right before the storm, and that was kind of too late to get all hands on deck. But maybe just, a slight modification and, getting ready in the fall, and then the way they plow it through the winter to keep it open. I don't know. I think it's
Yeah.
it's fixable.
Yep.
Okay, so
Sounds
our
like something
other,
for the bundled NOI. Sounds like a
yes,
definite thing to be put into the bundled NOI.
yeah, and it makes you have, there's a couple extra steps that maybe we wouldn't have thought of otherwise, so it's good for the drill. Okay, anything else on that one?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay, so on the 20th, Beth and I went out and had a look at the construction site of the new library. And it was sort of interesting because where they had sprayed hydro seed and it was flat and nobody mucked around with it, that worked. Most of the silk curtains, the plastic curtains were holding and doing pretty well. But in the last couple of months, the settling ponds have become compromised. There's a lot of sediment in them, and they're not gonna work the way they are without additional effort from the construction folks now on top of what they already did. And then on the west side where we have silt socks, the sediment, kind of washed clean up to the brim, and it may have gone over a little bit on those silt socks, but nothing left the enclosure. So it looks like they should replace a couple of them and well, actually quite a few feet of silt sock to make sure that doesn't continue before the growing season happens and we get that soil locked down around the construction site. And I also suggest that previously, I can't remember when it was, the settling pond closest to the road had breached, and they fixed it, but it was nearly breached again. So if that pond filled up, I think that would probably just start running out through the curtains again. So they need to do some maintenance there.
Yeah, Mary Ann was walking around with us and, she's had these conversations with them and they claim that before they leave the site, those sedimentation ponds will be functioning. So they're sort of at this point accepting the fact that quite a bit of sediment has gotten into the base or the bottom of those, and that seems to be their way of doing a construction project, unfortunately. But then what they're saying is that before they leave, they have said that those will be functioning, that they will be turning over functioning sedimentation basins. So I don't know.
It's on the scorecard.
Yeah, but they do need to replace some wattles. I think we that's in
Wattles, and
their
they need to
report, right?
replace they need to replace the breached part too. They had just put some of the sort of wattle stuffing at the end there, and that doesn't have any strength.
Mhm.
It worked while it was frozen.
Bob, you have your hand up?
Yeah, so I just wanted to, Beth, you've had a much longer scope on this project than I have. So those basins, those will be eventually be infiltration basins for the project?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I guess that is something to put on the checklist. And thank you again for your inspections, Janice. Uh, if they remain plugged with that's fine sediment, they won't function well as infiltration basins. So it is something we would want to just double check when they put in for the certificate of compliance that they are functioning and have taken those fine sediments out of there.
yep, definitely.
Anything else on
All
that?
right. Nope.
So the last one is today. Do we want to save that till we get to that?
Yeah,
Right.
we can talk about that
Okay.
during the hearing. That's
Yeah.
fine. But then we do need to set up at least one site visit for the bundled NOI. And I don't know, did you guys, where's my phone? My phone. The FERCog folks sent just days that were good for them. So we were looking at next week and we were looking in the afternoon. And I think it was sort of either Monday or Friday. I can't do Wednesdays. One of the people from FERCog can't do Tuesday. Um, I think Angela could only do after 4:30 on Thursday. So Monday or Friday, it could be like 3:45, or we can do later on Thursday. I'm okay with doing like a 4:30 on Thursday. So what works for folks?
Okay, so, um, what time are we talking? Like,
Um, like 3:45 on 3:45 or later on Monday and Friday, and then Thursday would have to be a little later than that, like 4:30 in the afternoon.
3:45 on Monday or Thursday? Um, I can do, I can do Monday at 3:45. Um, and then I can't do Friday. And Friday, I could do, like, I couldn't do any earlier than 4:30. Um,
So maybe Monday. Does Monday work for you, Jan and Bob?
I can do
Um,
that.
let me just check that real time, but I think it would be the meetup time.
3:45.
3:45?
3:45? Well, but we can do a little bit later if you want. That's sort of like the earliest time for
Okay.
people.
4
And
would be
what-
easier for me. Let me just quickly check my calendar. I'll be right back.
Would 4 work for you, Jan and Mayor, for Monday?
that works for me. Yeah.
Okay.
What was the address again?
So this is for the bundled NOI, and the suggested road to look at with DPW is Wendell Road, Dirt Wendell
Wendell.
Road. So I say we start,
At like Steve Sullivan's or something, and
because we can park there. I
Yeah.
feel like, is that the worst spot of the road to look at though?
well, I didn't know like where else to park along there. Like, are
That's
we
what
just
I'm-
getting in our cars and driving and then getting out and looking and then getting in our cars and driving, or are we walking the thing? Like, I wasn't clear.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm kind of coming.
Okay.
It's sort of like we, however much of the road we can look at
Okay.
before people kind of have to go home.
Okay.
So we may want to look further down, actually. Um,
Kind
what's
of
the
where
road that
this
comes off of Wendell? Kind of near,
curve
I guess
there.
it's the road that Scott lives on. Doesn't Scott live down there?
Yeah, he does.
What's
Yeah,
that
we could
road?
um I don't remember at the moment, but wait, yeah, that's a good place to meet. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Mhm.
That,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like one of the only roads I think that goes off of Dirt Wendell to the
It is.
right.
Yeah.
It's just, there's room down there to park, and I think there's a lot of erosion happening in that area there. There's some hills and stuff.
Right.
I just wanted to say that 4 o'clock would work well for me. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so Monday, is Monday the 31st?
It is.
All right, Monday 31st, 4 p.m. I'll just confirm that with the FERCog people and DPW too. All right, and so yeah, so we were just saying to meet on Dirt Wendell Road, where that other road that we don't know the name of it comes off of it,
Yeah.
down by where Scott lives. So I'll like come up with an actual address number for that area and send it out to everybody
Mhm.
so everybody knows. But all right, great. That'll work.
Can I suggest, Bob, you're on the sediment committee? Is there
Yes,
anything in particular that they have identified as egregious on Wendell Road that we should look at?
I can ask for a summary on that, and I can have that for us on Monday.
If there's something that group wants us to look at in particular, it would be good to know.
Great. I will. I'll certainly get that information.
All right, anything else on site visits, Jim?
That's all I know.
Okay. All right, next is land management update, and Scott's not here. So I'll give just a quick update that I went to the CPA meeting. I guess that was just last Thursday, and we voted on all the CPA applications, and all of the conservation ones got approved. Well, they got approved for referral to town meeting. So that's the way it works with the CPA applications is anybody that comes forward with an application for a project, the CPA committee reviews the project, makes recommendations and stuff, and then votes on which ones they want to bring to town meeting. And then Mateo, who's on this call, will present projects at town meeting and then town votes on them. But so our projects, you guys know, was all the trail work for Southbrook, which is got some bridges and some bog bridging. And the full project with the full cost estimate got approval from the CPA, and so did the invasive removal work at the top of the lake conservation area. So
Beth,
both of those are
was that the big Southbrook or the little Southbrook project?
the big Southbrook,
whole
the
banana?
full project,
The whole banana.
the whole banana, $72,000.
That's very nice.
It's
Crazy.
very nice. It's really great. That means that we can go at it of just getting one contract with the contractor, everything for 1 year. We were going to try to, just to give CPA money a break, or just to have a cheaper ask. We had it set up as all the design and half of construction for this year, and then we were going to go back next year to CPA for the other half of construction. But they gave it all to us, which means we can go, get a contract with somebody to do design and build of all of it this year together, which in the end saves money, I think, because if you do it the other way, the contractor may charge more because they would have to do 2 mobilizations over 2 years and split the project, and in the end you'd probably spend more money. So
I would recommend we try to get a quote from the guy that did the work at Kestrel.
that's who Scott got a quote from for this application to CPA.
Oh, that's
Mhm.
great, because he really had a good holistic view of how to approach that set of trails, and ours has similar threats and pitfalls. It would be really nice to have that under consideration when someone starts.
Yep. Yeah,
Good.
no, they did such a nice job there, and so yeah, so that's really exciting. So everybody has to go to the town meeting. It's May 31st. And
31st.
May 31st, so Memorial Day, I'm assuming that's Memorial Day weekend. Thinking.
So they did switch it.
They moved it from it was gonna be much earlier, because usually it is earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They,
yeah, Memorial Day is the 26th, but okay. Meeting.
yep, apparently, just so you guys know, town meeting is the 31st, but the local voting is still gonna be on April 26th. So you should have both those dates in your calendar. Mateo?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I spoke to Gabe today about the CPC's articles, and she said that they're probably going to be towards the end of the meeting, which is unfortunate because I think it's going to be a pretty long meeting. There's at least
Mm.
three zoning bylaw amendments coming from the planning board and a whole host of other things. So it'll be late in the meeting, unfortunately. But the CPC articles tend to be pretty non-controversial, so I wouldn't be too concerned. But definitely show up, and it's always very helpful to have somebody from the commission available to answer questions about the project, because obviously I'm not qualified to do that as the CPC chair.
Yeah, we'll make sure Scott's there for that to answer questions. But yeah, no, I plan to be there. But and I think everyone should try to make it. Town meeting. It's a good time. Little Shutesbury town meeting. All right. Time is it? Ooh, 9:23. Next on the agenda is to ratify the emergency cert for 74 Pratt Corner Road. I'm assuming you guys all saw this was for Miriam. She had an issue with her drinking water well. There was a whole lot of flooding around it, and it got contaminated. So it really was an emergency to get in there and pump it out. And also, I think redo the trenching for the connection to the well to the house. So just a small amount of it was in buffer zone. I think that actual connection at the house, and then they're putting in a curtain drain to try to keep the stormwater away from the well location. And the outfall for the curtain drain is in buffer zone. I think Bob, you stopped by and took a look at the location of everything, right?
Yeah, I did do a stop by, and apparently, Miriam is out of the country, but her caretaker was there and showed me the spots, and really, it's a long way. I did the paces out, and it seemed like it was over 100 feet from the wetland. I think on the plan it is within the like 95 feet or something like that. But anyway, my conclusion was that the work in the emergency cert could take place without damage to the resource areas.
Great, thank you for making that site visit.
Those are-
Does anybody have any questions about it?
No.
No, okay. So we just have to ratify because I signed the copy that went out because it needed to go out right away, but then the commission ratifies it. So I will take a motion to ratify the emergency cert for 74.
No, I was just going to say I would like to make a motion to ratify the
Oh,
emergency certification.
great. Second?
Second.
All right. Douglas,
Hi.
Rowan,
Aye.
Fox,
Hi.
and Wilson, aye. All right. Now, we have a public hearing, but I have to, yeah, this is the Atkins one, yep. I have to recuse myself, so Bob is going to be the chair for this hearing. Because I'm involved with it for my job. So Bob is gonna take over, and I see, just so Bob, you know, that Isabel, I see her time bond, she's gonna do the presentation.
I'm so embarrassed. I don't have the text in front of me. Matteo, do you happen to have uh, the uh, um, uh, the agenda in front of you?
Are you looking? You're looking for the actual RD applic the
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could read the property and what is being asked for.
This is a request for determination of applicability for the Atkins Reservoir Basin dredging project from the Town of Amherst Department of Public Works.
Great, thank you. And uh, Chair Substitute chairs notes that Beth has recused herself at this point. Isabel, would you care to begin?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Matteo, I'm told that you might be able to give me screen sharing capabilities. Is that right?
It should already be available. I turned on for all.
Perfect. Let me just see if I can find share. Okay, everybody see my screen there? So, yes, everyone can see my screen?
Yes.
Great. So, tonight I'm here to discuss the Atkins Reservoir Sedimentation Basins Dredging Project, proposed by the Town of Amherst Department of Public Works. My name is Isabel Arthen Long. I'm a project environmental scientist with Ty and Bond. So we will start just by looking at the location of the project. It's located right off of Cushman Road, southeast of Atkins Reservoir. You can see the project site outlined in orange here. A little bit of background about the project. The Atkins Reservoir supplies approximately a third of Amherst's drinking water demand. It was constructed in the 1930s, and at the time that it was constructed, a diversion channel was constructed to carry flow from Nurse Brook and Dean Brook into Atkins Reservoir, and along that channel, 3 sedimentation basins were created to capture sediment and allow it to settle before it enters the reservoir as water quality treatment. So the historical records that we have, you can see this is a aerial image from 1962. Historical records indicate that the basins were dredged at least once since their construction in the 30s, in the late 50s or early 60s. And you can see there was some significant clearing around the basins at that point. At present, all 3 of the sedimentation basins are nearing their capacity. So what's happening is during high flow events, sediment in the basins actually would get picked up by high flow and transported into the river. So not only are they not serving their function as sediment capture, they're also serving as a source of sediment pollution into the reservoir. So to prevent this from happening, the DPW needs to block the water flow from into the channel during these high flow conditions, storm events, snow melt, things like that, which maybe prevents the mobilization of sediment from the basins, but it also sacrifices opportunities to recharge the reservoir. So the goals of this project are to perform maintenance dredging on these sedimentation basins in order to restore their water treatment functions, and also improve the capacity of the basins to accommodate higher diverted flows into Atkins Reservoir. I'll just give you a little tour of this schematic here. Nurse Brook and Dean Brook enter this diversion channel across from 42 Cushman Road. You can see there's a couple of water control structures there that can prevent water from flowing into the channel. And then there's a second water control structure. This schematic is actually from the time when the channels were built. So this is all proposal sketch. So then there's a second water control structure that can control the amount of flow going into the reservoirs. And then they enter 3 basins sequentially before finally the diversion channel exits into the Atkins Reservoir. So another schematic here showing the same system, and a description of the scope of work. So the proposal is to dredge all 3 sediment basins to restore their original capacity. The access is proposed via Cushman Road using a couple existing cart paths and trails to the greatest extent possible so that we can minimize the amount of tree clearing required to get that construction equipment to the site. And the dredged material from the basins is going to be first dewatered on the site and then transported to be used as cover at the retired Amherst landfill. So it's a multi-purpose or an advantageous use for all of that sediment that we're hoping to get rid of. As far as schedule goes, this spring and summer we're finalizing the design and working on securing permits. We'll be obtaining a contractor sometime this fall and winter, and anticipate that construction will occur in fall 2026. Couple of photos of existing conditions at the site. These are photos on the left here. This is basin number 1, which is closest to the reservoir, and basin number 3, which is the furthest upstream. Actually, this is basin number 2 because I can see this other water control structure here. You can see in this picture that that sediment has accumulated to the point where some vegetation has started growing within the basins, when it should just be a pool of water. A couple of pictures of those upstream control structures. This one closer up near Cushman Road, and this is just upstream of the most upgradient basin. So the project is considered exempt under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act. Both the basins and channel qualify as structures that serve the public to provide public water services. In order to meet the exemption criteria, the proposed activities have to be conducted to maintain, but not substantially change or enlarge the utility infrastructure, and work must utilize the best practical measures to avoid or minimize impacts to wetland resource areas outside the footprint of the structure or facility. So these activities are being proposed just to maintain these basins, to restore them to their original condition and restore their water treatment functions. And we've proposed best practices in terms of erosion and sedimentation controls, best management practices, as well as strategizing site access to minimize impacts to the buffer zone around these resource areas, which is required in order to access the site and perform the work, but will be minimized to the extent practicable by using those existing trail networks. The Shutesbury Wetlands Protection Bylaw recognizes this exemption under the Wetlands Protection Act, provided that the following conditions are met. So the structure or facility needs to not be substantially changed or enlarged. We've discussed that. Written notice must be given to the commission prior to the commencement of work. This RDA is serving as that notice. And finally, the bylaw requires that the work conform to performance standards and design specifications. On this, the applicant is requesting a waiver from this condition. These systems, while they are considered resource areas under the Wetlands Protection Act and the bylaw, they were constructed as utility infrastructure. And the regulations are targeted, at natural resource areas in order to protect the services that they provide, ecosystem services that they provide. And while these basins do provide a variety of ancillary ecosystem services to the area, they were constructed specifically to provide a single ecosystem service, which is water quality treatment. And so the standards that are targeted at protecting natural resource areas don't necessarily apply to the maintenance of a utility structure, especially when that maintenance of utilities is recognized as exempt under both the bylaw and the Wetlands Protection Act. So to give you an overview of the proposed work. We have here the limit of work outlined in red. And you can see that there are erosion control barriers along the entirety of the limit of work, as well as in locations where they're needed to protect resource areas within that limit of work that are not proposed to be disturbed. The channel and the basins are outlined in blue, which hopefully you can see. This sheet shows our access and site preparations. So we'll have 2 points of access off of Cushman Road. The first is to the northern portion of the site, where there's an existing fairly wide cart path that will only need to be widened, minor widening to allow for access for construction equipment. So it'll be coming up using that existing cart path. There will be a temporary timber mat crossing that won't impact bank. It'll span the entirety of the bank to enable construction equipment to come across to the northern portion of this site and access Basin 3 from its northern extent. We also have up north a upland dewatering area that will be surrounded by erosion controls and cofferdams and underlaid by geotextile fabric to allow for infiltration of water without creating erosion. This area here will be cleared for access. And this area down here will be entering the site from the south. This area will have to be cleared along an existing path. So there will be more substantial widening down here in order to access both Basin 2 and Basin 1. The proposed conditions, you still have the limit of work here outlined in red and the basins and channel outlined in blue. Every area that is striped, shown as striped, will be replanted with a native seed mix consisting of shade-tolerant native herbaceous vegetation. The areas that are checkered will be restored both with that native seed mix as well as replanted with trees, reflecting the composition of the forest in that area. So this northern area will be restored completely back to existing conditions, as will areas closest to the resource areas down here on the southern extent. The solid gray areas show areas that currently consist of paths and trails that will remain trails after following construction. The reason we've left a minimal amount of space down here with just herbaceous vegetation and not trees is to facilitate easier access in the future if the basins need further maintenance, so that there's less tree clearing needed to access those basins. I will also mention, I failed to mention earlier that there will be cofferdams, maybe it's shown here. There will be cofferdams located at the outlet of each of the basins in order to isolate them and prevent sediment from moving between the basins during construction. We also have a turbidity curtain installed at the outlet of the channel to catch any sediment that might make its way down to the reservoir. And finally, all of the water control structures will restrict flows so that no water is entering the channel during the construction period. So looking at estimated impacts, we have impacts to bank consisting of control grade structures to prevent erosion within the basins. We have temporary impacts related to cofferdams and some temporary impacts related to access and clearing, although some of those are permanent as well. Our impacts to land underwater consist primarily of the dredging, of course, as well as some temporary impacts from those cofferdams. and turbidity curtain. The fill within land underwater consists of those grade control structures as well as temporary cofferdams and turbidity curtains. We're expecting to excavate approximately 2,500 cubic yards of sediment across all three basins. And then finally, we have impacts from staging and stockpiling and access and clearing within the buffer zone and aura. And the vast majority of those will be temporary and restored in situ. A small portion will be permanent to facilitate easier access in the future, as I mentioned, in that southern area. So at this point, I will open up for questions and discussion. I'm happy to return to any of these slides if you'd like to spend a little more time with them.
Great. Thank you, Isabel. I think that was a great presentation. We'll take questions in the order of Conservation Commissioners. We'll check with Matt to see if there's anything that's come in via phone or email. Then we'll open it up to discussion for anybody else that might be on the call. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I just wanted to bring up a few things that we talked about when we did the site visit today. Probably first and foremost is that this project falls under the utility maintenance exception for our regulations. So they're, allowed to do this project. And they're planning for it in terms of protecting the wetlands is very good. So they're not ignoring, just because they've got an exemption, they're not ignoring things that matter. They're taking care when they're crossing the stream. They're looking probably at fall or winter for the season of work, which is good. They have portions of the work are happening very close to vernal pools, and so they're gonna, curtain them off, but they are within the buffer zone of those pools. And then the only question that I didn't have an answer to, and I don't think that Isabel did either, was the planting question. There's nothing wrong with the planting plan. It's just if you're going to plant what is already there in terms of, it's sort of a hemlock forest. If you're planting hemlocks and you're looking into the future 30 years, will the adelges beat you out with your trees, or should you think of more of a succession planting for trees, birch or oak, which is already there, maybe another species, I don't know, but that sort of came up as a thought question. We've got climate change coming, and we have these threats to the native populations of trees already. And, I don't know the answer, but it may be worth having a little think on that.
Right. Thank you for bringing that up, Jen. Yes, and as we discussed, we're proposing to plant a variety of species. I think we listed hemlock, red oak, white oak, a species of birch, and red maple. And if the commission would prefer to take hemlock off that list, because they may not, they may come under attack, within the next several years, then we're happy to consider other species, or just to leave that out if the commission has preferences.
I wondered on the way home, yes, you've got a nice list of things that you can plant, and I'm not even sure you need to plant hemlock if they're surviving the adelgid in that zone. That's great, and they're gonna send out their own soldiers. Hemlock will not be stopped unless they are. So, maybe a little emphasis on the other species does make sense.
Yeah, that's an easy change.
I don't know. I'd leave that up to the other commissioners to weigh in.
I certainly would support that. would likely have a rich seed bank in that area, so which would include hemlock. So I'd be okay with that alternative. Mary, your thoughts?
I don't know. I pass I kind of I agree with I don't know the trees as much as but I do pass a, an area on the way into Montague on the right that past the book mill that was cleared out, and it just responded so quickly and so fast and so I guess I would just leave that up to you to determine what would go in that area.
Good. Well, do we have a consensus that the proponent has put together a good seed package, and we'd be okay if they skimped on the hemlock?
That sounds like a very quality professional recommendation.
Great. Um, uh, I had a few things that I wanted to chat about. Uh, Jan, anything else on your mind?
That about covered what I was worried about. I mean, the vernal pools are very close to the work zone, so
Yeah.
I think that they have a good plan, but then I also feel a little nervous.
I'm happy to, let me show where those are. So the two potential vernal pools we have on site, one is up here. I think you can see my cursor, is that right?
We can.
So there's one up here above this access route, and there's one down here close to the channel.
Okay.
So a couple things I'll say is that the clearing occurring up here will not, there will be a vegetated buffer that's undisturbed between the vernal pool and the proposed access route. This is all forested between the limit of work and the vernal pool. We'll also be performing the work during an inactive vernal pool season, during the fall or winter when it will likely be dry and there won't be species present. This area is also going to be restored back to existing conditions. So there eventually won't, be any clearing left there beyond the path that is already present. Down here, there's no work proposed in the channel here. All of our access will be from the south on these two basins. So no work is going to be happening above the basins here. So the closest we'll be getting is just dredging within the basin itself. And again, during an inactive period. Yeah. So I understand the sensitivity to vernal pools, and we are optimistic that this work won't have any adverse impact on wildlife that may rely on those systems.
Yeah, I appreciated your argument that it's the seasonal nature of your work will be sort of a safeguard.
Right.
You know, what we also mentioned was we seem to have two seasons here in the fall. One is drought and the other is monsoon. And so you're planning to get going in 2026 in the fall if all goes well. If it's monsoon, what does that mean? Do you delay into the winter? Is that kind of how it would work?
If there are any predicted high flow events, we would certainly reassess our construction schedule. But again, as we discussed, we do, and it's sort of a rare situation where we have these water control structures within the channel already, where we'll be able to cut off flows. So any major rain events would of course affect the basins through runoff and rainfall, but not so much from high flows in the channel. So there's some mitigation of those high flow events, just from those control structures. But certainly if it seemed like the forecast, predicted storms that would overcome our cofferdams, then work would be postponed.
Yeah, okay.
Mayor, do you have any questions?
No, I feel at a disadvantage. I mean, I know the area, but I wish that I had been able to go to the site visit, so um I don't have any further questions.
Isabel, as part of your application, did you do a waiver request under our bylaw?
I did not see any waiver requests. We requested that the commission waive that third condition on the exemption within the RDA, but did not fill out a separate form.
That's fine. That's totally acceptable. Question for the commissioners, and then we'll check with Matt to see if any inquiries have come in. Uh, the Conservation Commission has the ability to have an inspector on site during construction. That's something I would like you to consider. Also, we also have the ability to have a peer reviewer come in and review the plans before the commission approves those. Mayor and Jen, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think either of those are necessary. Our sister ship Amherst is, as equally interested in having this right as we are, I think. I think the plan is fairly tight. So from my point of view, that's not necessary.
Okay, Mayor, your thoughts on a peer review or a construction supervisor or construction reviewer that would do periodic visits?
Well, let me just back into that. Would we be able to do site visits as well, like we kind of do with the library, or
Yeah, that would be built into the order of conditions that we would be available to do, allowed to do inspections.
I'd be happy with that.
I apologize. I think at least on my end you froze. Can you just repeat your last statement?
Oh, I said I would be happy with just having site visits
Yeah,
by the committee.
very good. Okay, I appreciate that. Um, if there's no further questions from the commission, I'll go to Matt. Matt, have you got any emails or feedback from the community?
No, the commission has not received anything.
Excellent, thank you. Lastly, is there anybody else on the call that would like to have questions or comments? I can't see the whole screen, so if you're there, please just shout out. Okay, hearing none, let's see what we wanted to do today. Uh, were you looking for us to close the hearing tonight, Isabel?
That would be ideal, if the commission was prepared to issue a determination.
Okay, I don't believe we have a determination drafted, but we could close the hearing and issue that at our next hearing. Jan, have you seen a draft?
I have not, but I would motion to close the hearing and do that next time.
Okay. If there's nothing else we need, then we can close the hearing. We have a motion on the floor by Jan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye. Jan Rowan,
Aye.
Mayor Fox,
Aye.
Bob Douglas, aye. Unanimous. So the meeting is hereby closed, and Isabel, we'll see you next to do a discussion and issuance of a determination. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you.
Great. That concludes this hearing, and I will turn it back to Beth Wilson, Conservation Chair.
Bob, that'll be on the April 10th, the next
Excellent.
meeting.
Yeah, that's a great image, Beth. Please tell us who our chairman is there in front.
My cat Ginger is now gonna chair the rest of the
Ginger.
meeting. Oh, she got scared.
Oh, she just gave the
She
gavel
got
back to you.
It's funny, she'll sometimes sit right here and, you know, she's like staring people down with her big eyes. All right, well, that went well, and yeah, we'll issue the determination at the next meeting, so that's great. Thanks for doing that, Bob.
Oh, you're welcome. It's fun.
Good, and thanks for doing the site visit, Jan. All right. So next on our agenda is the continuation of the public hearing for the bundled NOI. And as I mentioned earlier, the applicant requested that that be continued to our next meeting, which is April 10th. And I think I said 7:15. So I guess the one we just did will have to be later than that, because I told the applicant 7:15 for this one. So we just need a motion to continue the hearing for the bundled NOI to April 10th at 7:15.
Motion to continue the bundled NOI to April 10th at 7:15.
I'd be happy to second that.
Great. All right. Douglas,
Aye.
Rowan,
Aye.
Fox,
Aye.
and Wilson. Aye. Great.
Beth, we have
Um,
Dave here. Do we want to mention 539? And the date of our Wendell field trip?
Oh, 539 Wendell Road.
Yeah,
And then also the site visit on Monday for the bundled NOI,
right.
right?
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, are you out there?
Yes, I am.
Hello. So we're not talking about the bundled NOI tonight. I guess I thought FERCog was gonna let you know about that, where they asked to have it continued, the hearing continued to the next meeting, which is April 10th. And the main reason they wanted to do that was to do at least one or maybe two site visits to just look at some of the work that's included in the bundled NOI. So we're really hoping that you and anybody else from DPW who wants to come on the site visit would be able to come. We're looking at Monday, this coming Monday in the afternoon. We're thinking 4 o'clock. Does that work for you? 3 o'clock?
Yeah, Ryan told me 3.
Who told you that? Megan?
Ryan from the FERCog,
Ah, okay.
the one that set it all up.
Did they say next? Yeah, I don't know if we had said Monday, but okay. And is 3:45 too late for you?
Well, I normally get out of work at 4. So I think that's why I mentioned 3.
Yeah. So I get out of work at 3. So,
Yeah,
Could we-
whatever time you guys decide is, I'll stick around.
yeah, well, we can try for, you know, I can leave work a little early, and if it works for other people to move it even to 3:30 or 3:20 or something. I don't know, is that making it worse for you guys? For Bob, for you, or for Jan, or for Mayor? If we move
I'm
it
still
up?
good.
Yeah, I have to cross the state, but I can see if I can leave earlier to get there. Not a problem.
All right, well, why don't we shoot for about 3:30? We'll see what we can get done in half an hour, and we can always do maybe a second site visit, but. So we were thinking of meeting on the dirt part of Wendell.
Okay. You
We
had
couldn't remember the name of the road that goes off of the dirt part of Wendell, so you kind of go down all those hills, and then there's a road that goes off to the right. Can't remember the name of it, but we just thought that would be a good place. There's space for parking, and it's also an area where there's some hills and there's some you know, there's a stream and some other things.
I
Does
can't
that
remember,
work?
I can't remember the name of the road either. So you're gonna
Yeah.
let Ryan know it's not 3:30? Or somebody?
Yep, I'll let them all know for Cargan and Angela from PVPC too.
Yep,
Great.
So
All
we'll
right, well,
deal
we'll
with
do that.
we'll deal with 539 then.
what's 539? Not
That's-
public.
Yes.
We had a resident identify a problem at their house on 539 Wendell.
Oh,
The,
for her steps.
yeah, that whole stretch right there.
Yeah, we just cleaned that whole stretch right up today.
Oh, good. So we'll see the perfection.
Well, yeah, you'll see the results of some clean
All
water.
right.
So, yeah,
All right, that's good.
we cleaned a bunch of stuff up, and I plan on grading that section of the road next week sometime if I don't keep getting interrupted and if the grader holds up. But
Okay.
yeah, we're trying to clean up Wendell Road right now, but everybody's calling about all the other roads that have just thawed. So they want all the roads graded at once, I guess. I don't know
And
how that's
Yeah.
possible, but you know, we try.
Dave, do you have anywhere there on Wendell Road that you want to identify as a particularly troublesome area that we should look at?
Not really. I mean, I spoke with that woman at that residence. She had someone clean up her steps, and it looks like they brought all the sediment up to the top of her driveway there. And right after her driveway, there's a lot of sediment down in the woods there.
Yeah.
Really the only place I can see where it's a problem there. And it's very difficult to try to catch that sediment at that spot because it's such a drop off. If we continue to go down the road, there's also like a stream that goes underneath and you know, sediment there. So it's a very difficult spot. So any suggestions would be helpful. And you know, whatever is recommended, but I don't know if there's a way to put some kind of a bar there to stop that sediment because of the drop off and because of it goes right between those two houses.
Mhm.
So I mean, that's a concern, you know, if stuff's going down through there. But we did clean out a lot of stuff above that hill and on that hill and at the bottom of that hill. And if you want to take a ride down there, you can see what we did. We built a bunch of little catch spots to try to catch the sediment and slow the water down before it even gets there.
Yeah.
We've changed some of our material on the road to a smaller hard pack material so that it packs harder. That was recommended by the District 2 DOT. Chris Bouchard recommended changing the material we were using from the stuff Tim was using.
Is the
So-
smaller hard pack, like, do you know the section on Locks Pond just above the dam on the right-hand side? Is that what you put there, or that was put there probably about 3 or 4 years ago?
Locks Pond, that was a while ago. That was been whatever they did at the culvert, whatever they put in there at the culvert. I don't know what
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's a paved section. We don't put any material in there. What we want to do is try to divert the water to the stream away from the lake. And now we were talking to the lake associate, well, not the lake association, but the water, I forget what they call it now. But we have a meeting with them as well about what the water going down to the lake. There's water going down between two houses and the stream goes right through somebody's deck post. I don't know who designed that. But yeah, to try to divert the water from going down there would be probably ideal, but that's all up to everybody involved, I guess. And we can work it out however you want to do it.
All right. I'm just curious, the FERCog, oh, my cat. The dirt road project, is that's Has that FERCog's been working with you?
Not the lock, yeah, the dirt road progress, the FERCog's been working with me on that. And they've been super helpful as far as, conversating with us, and they really are interested in what we're doing to stop the sediment and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping to hear, I guess that what they've, my cat, what they've brought forward's been helpful, the things that them meeting with you and just talking about dirt road maintenance. I'm hoping that it's helpful.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, then we'll have that site visit on Monday and we'll continue the hearing at our next meeting on April 10th.
Okay.
All right, is everybody ready to move on to the regulations?
Say
All right,
goodbye.
thanks, Dave.
Thank you, David.
We'll see you Monday.
Okay.
I'll be back in a
Okay.
sec to get my cat in.
My cat's just being a pain, a real pain. All right.
I'm so
She's
jealous
on
of
this
people's
side.
cats that do things. My cats just sit in one spot, and then there's a brief moment when they get fed, and that's pretty much it. There's no like walking around or going outside or anything like that.
That sounds like my mom's cat. Every time I go to visit her, the cat is sitting in the same place, or curled up, basically, curled up in the exact same spot. Yeah, no, this cat is very active. She doesn't go outside. Um, she loves to actually watch TV.
Oh,
When if you go to YouTube, there's all these cat channels, and it's
really?
birds and chipmunks and stuff, and then one is it's it's not real bugs, it's like fake bugs of things flying across, and she loves it. She loves it.
Does she bat at them?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I always think she's gonna knock the TV over, and so that's on a bigger screen. She's usually watching that on a bigger screen TV in our bedroom. So, but my laptop has a touch screen, and I was in a Zoom, and she was sitting here, and she batted at it, and she knocked me out of the meeting.
You're smart creatures.
It was really funny. I was like, no. Anyway, she's fun. All right, so regulations. Why don't I share my screen? I can bring up where we're at.
but while we're doing that, I don't know how to rectify this, but I still am not getting the emails from the email that I sent off that I set up for they're just not being forwarded, and I don't know that I've confirmed several times, and I guess last time people confirmed that they got an email, but it also was sent to my work email. So I don't know how to rectify it, but other than I guess I'll just check it once a week. But I'm getting the emails that like are sent directly to me and Bob, like to my email and his email, but the ones
Yeah.
that are sent to Concom, I'm not getting. I don't know how to rectify this. I don't know what's going on.
It's probably not something on your end. It's probably something that I'm not clicking or doing correct. So let me check with the Web Communications Committee and have them, I'll ask them to walk me through it again to see if there's something I missed.
Okay, thank you. It's just that I open it up and I'm like, I'm missing all, like I'm trying to keep up on the emails and but yeah.
Every email that I've been sending, I send it to general Concom, and then I just do your address and Bob's personal addresses.
Yep.
Or well, at least your Shutesbury addresses. Just because I wasn't sure if either one of you were getting that Concom general email.
I was.
And it sounds like you're not. Bob, are you getting the general Concom?
I don't think I am. I will go back and take a look at that.
Okay. All right, well, let me know if whenever you actually start getting them, and then I'll stop.
Okay.
Just just adding you guys on as additional
Yeah,
emails.
feel free to send a test out that because I do want to get that taken care of.
Okay, Mateo, you gonna work on that a little?
Yep, I'll look into it.
Okay, great. All right, well, here we are with the regulations. I think we're up to Article 5, which is procedures and permits, which is a little bit more just straightforward procedure kind of stuff, and instead of the actual resource area sections. So I'm hoping we can get through this pretty quickly. Let me get out my notes on this. All right. So let me know if you have changes to any of these things. This first section is self-imposed hardships. So it's just a list of things that are sort of considered things that people may have they've created a hardship and they created it themselves, and so therefore the law doesn't really look at that as a true hardship in terms of giving them waivers or variances and things. So this is sort of the list of things that if people do it to themselves, we really don't consider it as much of a hardship. So when I looked at the list, I was fine with it. I guess I just gonna cruise through this stuff, hoping you guys have had a chance to look. And if you have any changes, just let me know. So I did not have any changes to the self-imposed hardships.
I think it's well crafted, and I particularly like the 117 applicant must disclose full development plans as opposed to segment things out to their advantage. So I think it's well put together.
Yeah, all of them made sense to me. And actually, when I was looking, I didn't go to see if these are something that's in the state regs too. But they all made sense to me. All right, so into time periods. This again, so this information, there's a very similar section in the state regs. I think some of the actual like numbers of days might be a little bit different. And there was one thing that I wanted to just see what you guys thought about. Oops. And that was 222, where it says revised materials for open hearings. All materials are due by noon, 10 business days prior to the hearing or the meeting. I like the 10 business days for an actual application, like a new application. I think those should come into us at least, they should come in at least 10 business days prior to their hearing. But sometimes, you open a hearing and then you ask the applicant for more information. And that's sort of what revised materials are. And I feel like setting a 10 business day prior to the next hearing is a little bit too long. If say tonight we had told Isabel that she needed to revise the plan set, but we want her to come back to the next meeting, which is really about 10 business days from now. It's 2 weeks from now. It's April 10th. So for her to revise, make all the revisions she needs to, and then get the revised plans back to us prior to April 10th, I just feel like 10 business days is a little too much. My suggestion would be to change it to 5 business days. So that would be like, again, using tonight's example, if she was coming to the April 10th meeting, we would want her to get it to us on April 5th.
So maybe it could say something like, if the committee seeks something like, if the committee is requests further information or revised materials, that those materials are due within 5 days after the meeting. Do you know what I mean? 5 business days after the meeting.
Yeah, we could change it to 5 days after. if that's
That
how,
way,
that's,
you know, like if requested, if, you know, if requested, um, yeah, 5 days after the meeting.
yep, that's fine with me. I think that, do we feel like that gives
The
people,
only benefit of leaving it 5 days before the meeting is in case it isn't 2 weeks, in case it's a different, in case we're in a different sequence of meeting dates, So if it's,
Mm.
5 days after, it might be too close to a meeting if it wasn't precisely 2 weeks out or something,
That's true, yeah, in the off season when we only meet once a month. Um, you're kind of asking, you're saying to somebody, oh, we're not going to see you for a whole month, but we'd still like your revisions within 5 days.
Yeah,
That seems a little strange.
yeah, it might be before the meeting.
Yeah, I kind of prefer 5 days prior to the meeting.
I'm thinking of things like Whiteman and all the crap he's had to go do. It's
Yeah,
taken him time to get that information, and the
yeah,
more they get, the better, like in the winter meetings anyway.
yeah. Many times, I've been in situations where I've uh, had applicants who are returning to a meeting and they're revising things, and even it's just a couple days before a meeting, and you're reaching out to them saying we need it because it's just it always puts them in a tighter schedule, especially if the meetings are only 2 weeks apart. Bob, what do you think?
That's
You're muted. Oh,
that's always a tricky thing because you want to give the applicant time to submit it, and you also want to have time for the commissioners to review it. For the town I work at, all information has to be in 2 weeks before the meeting. So essentially, uh, um, should there be any revisions to Isabel's project, just as an example, she would have to get that to us at the kind of at the date of our next meeting, and then we would actually hear it 2 weeks later. So it's almost a four week process to do revisions and then return. And
mm,
it's not perfect, but it is what my current commission uses.
yeah. Um, yep. That's for big towns.
Yeah, and but engineering revisions can be considerable and can often not be done in 5 days. So it's tricky.
Yeah, I think if we say, revisions are due 5 days prior to the hearing, that does put a little pressure on us as a commission. We'd only have 5 days to review it. But also, yeah, if it takes, if somebody, if it's big revisions, then most likely they're not going to even make that date and would have to, like you said, almost extend to the next meeting anyway. They wouldn't really be able to come back in 2 weeks. If there were major revisions, I think continuing the hearing, we would say, do you think you can get it done in the next 2 weeks? And they would probably say no, and then we would actually continue them for a whole month.
Do you
So
want, do you want to include that? 5 days or unless continuation is required?
um, yeah, I mean, I think these are all going to be continued hearings. That's why they're revising the materials. Um, but yeah, all materials are due by noon, 10 days prior to,
Unless further continuation is required, right? Because they could contact us and say that, right?
yeah, I mean, I think it's basically saying 5 days prior to whatever hearing they're planning to come to. If they don't think they're going to be able to make it to the next hearing with their changes, they'll just continue to the next hearing. And this is saying before the hearing that you're going to actually come to, we want your revisions at least 5 days before that.
Okay,
You see what I mean?
yeah.
Oh, is this in change? I don't even remember how to. Nope.
You just
Can you
go
guys
under,
hear my cat meowing?
oh,
I think she wants to go outside of the room. What am I doing wrong? Show
you just go
suggested.
under edit though? If you didn't put it under, like,
No. Comments? Maybe.
Beth, if
Forget how I did this.
click on the in the toolbar, if you click on it, looks like a pencil icon. Well, now it's gone. Oh, there it is. There's a pencil icon.
mm,
Good. Move your mouse down to the lower bar. Oh, nope, nope. Up a little bit.
up higher,
Click that,
right
and then
there.
go down. Yep.
Editing. Suggesting.
If you do suggesting, then it will mark it up and not make the changes directly.
Oof. Now where'd we go?
Well, you wanted to
Oh.
edit it though, didn't you? Go ahead and go back up and do the edit.
Okay, let me get down to where. Well, let's just see what happens. Ah, yay. Thank you. Okay. Okay, working sessions. I didn't have any changes for working sessions. Those are just times when somebody would meet with an applicant to sort of help them with what's needed in their application. Just sort of lays out what you're allowed to say to them and what you're not, and that's fine. A butter notification. So this is green, not because I made it green, but because it was a section that got changed since the last revision. I think I thought through it and I didn't have any issues with it.
If it is a a giant project like imagine if it was a well being dug at Kestrel. Is there a procedure for work within the distance of that single project, or will it always be 100 feet from the boundary of the property?
Yeah, I don't, there's no language in here similar to what you're talking about that's in the Wetlands Protection Act for the really large parcels. I wonder if we should add that language in here. Probably should.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Camp Anderson comes to mind, and Kestrel. That if you had to do 100 feet of the property line, there would be people that wouldn't even really be interested in the project, but it would be somewhat burdensome. Um, Maybe we pick a distance like 200 feet from the nearest point of the project for large parcels or something like that.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, I think we should do that. There's large parcels and then there's sort of the long linear parcels, which is usually like railroads, even transmission lines. There's special language under the state for those kind of parcels.
Right.
Does it define what large is in a large parcel?
It does. Um, how about I look at that language and we can talk about it at our next meeting?
Yeah.
I think that'd be great.
I can bring the text for that. All right. Besides that, I thought the butter notification looked good. Did anybody have any concerns about it? I go let my cat out just a minute.
It looks kind of like the MACC boilerplate. And so it's been tried and tested. So this looks pretty good to me.
Okay,
The only question I have about a butter notification is, I was confused by who lakefront properties are calling abutters. Are they jumping across the lake or what the heck were they doing?
yeah. Um, so right here it says so abutters within 100 feet of the property line of the land where the delineation or activities proposed, including owners of land directly opposite of any public or private street or way in another municipality or across a body of water.
You know, I guess my question goes to the point, uh, like property size in general. If you're talking about a big parcel, there's a definition for big parcel. I think it gets a little absurd to jump all the way across, say, Lake Wyola and have to notify people over there. I understand if you were jumping across the Sawmill River because you can talk to each other across the river, but the lake isn't that. That's kind
Yeah,
of crazy. And it doesn't make sense to me.
it doesn't make sense to me either. And I can't remember if along with that large parcel, linear parcel uh, text, whether there was anything about large water bodies. Because you'd think that
If there isn't, I think we should make an exception.
I agree. I agree. We could definitely put in some kind of a
You could
size.
go 100 foot if you're at one end of the lake or the other where you're that close to your neighbor and it's only 100 feet or something, that can make
Mhm.
sense. But when you're going all the way across the lake, that's like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, so we could have something in here and we can think about it, maybe come up with something for our next meeting, but public street or way, another municipality, or across a body of water less than 50 feet wide or something like that. Because let's see, a typical road is 24, about 35 feet wide, a typical 2-lane road. So
Yeah,
maybe a body of water that's less than 50 feet might make
yeah,
sense.
some sort of limiting amount because, jeepers, that gets crazy.
All right. I'll put that in here for now, but we can think about it.
I saw somebody's list and I was like, who are they?
I'll just leave it in for now, but we can talk more about it. Okay. So I had nothing else for the butter section. And then actions by Conservation Commission. Yep, that's all necessary to say and makes sense to me. Basically, I don't know if you guys look through, but it's saying that we need to have a majority of a quorum to, for example, take a vote. But then where any language states that we're just issuing something, which would actually mean the actual mailing out of a permit or something, it can be taken by a majority of the members who are then in the office. And they don't need to convene as a body in order to sign said permit or determination. It's a little different than a vote.
Yeah, can you that last sentence, can you kind of explain that to me about what it means by in the office?
Taking a majority of members then in office. So quorum is of, so we have a 5-member, we're always supposed to have 5 members, but say we only have 4 members in office, meaning somebody's quit, we still have to have, our quorum is still 3. In this case, if it's not a vote, it's something else. You just need a majority of the people who are then in office. So again, say if we only had 4 people, majority would still be 3. But if you had a committee maybe that had more than 5 people, the majority of in office just means how many people are active.
Should there be 3 commissioners? Then the majority would consist of 2, correct?
If there were 2 commissioners,
If there were 3, if say we're 2 people transitioned out and the committee had 3, then a vote of 2 would be the majority. Am I reading that correctly?
for this particular thing, for we'd be if we only had 3 members, all 3 of them would have to vote on everything. That's the
Okay, all right.
first sentence.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so it
I
depends on
understand
what
that
you're
now.
doing. If you're actually voting on a hearing, voting to issue a permit, for example, you do still need the 3 out of 5. But in this case, they're saying if the word says issue instead of vote, which I'm not really sure what these actions would necessarily be, where you can just take the majority of the members who are in office at the time.
Yeah, that last part
Thank
just
you.
doesn't make sense. That as to like when would that happen? You need not convene as a body in order to sign said permit or determination, but then provided they met pursuant to the open meeting law when voting them. Is it saying like, okay, we agree, but we're just going to come in and sign something afterwards? Is that when it would be that would be the situation?
Yeah, when I think of issuing, I think of it as something that's already been voted on.
Okay.
That people are just signing at some point. So, and I
Okay.
think they mentioned open meeting law because it would be something happening outside of a meeting.
Okay.
And in that case, apparently, you can have just the majority of people sign something that's the majority of the people in office at the time.
That sounds really confusing because I don't know.
I don't know.
You have examples. If we don't have anything in our brains about what we're doing there, maybe get rid of that.
The only thing I can think of is sometimes for things like conservation restrictions, or if the conservation is buying a piece of land, for example, and there's all these documents that do need to be signed. Conservation restriction, purchase and sale agreement. There's different things that during that process have to be signed, and say the document isn't ready yet during the meeting. So we vote at the meeting that we all approve the conservation restriction. So then we have to have a quorum to take that vote. But then later, you know, Mateo's got the actual document at his office and people need to sign it. So the issuance of it, it can't be issued until a certain number of people sign it. And I think what this is saying is that we can issue something like that with only, again, say there was only 4 of us in office or 3 of us in office at the time. We wouldn't need 3 people to sign it, because as long as 2 is the majority, still with the 5 thing, I don't understand how this would work, but
So there's actually a time when we physically have to sign something, because we haven't done that yet.
yeah, the only thing I can think of, some of the, again, land purchases, because you have to have the original signatures to record things.
Maybe we need the parentheses as in land purchases. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. Again, like, does this come out of the Wetlands Protection Act? I'm not sure. I see what it's getting at. With the 5-member commission, I'm not sure how often it would have to get used. If you had, like in Amherst, we have a 7-member commission. So in that case, it's a majority of 4. You have to have 4 to vote on things. But say they didn't have a full 7-member commission at that time, they had a few empty seats and they needed to issue, like I said, like a conservation restriction. You could have a majority of less than 4 sign the document and issue it outside of a meeting. That's what I think this is getting at. So I would say leave it in there. I think it is confusing. I'm not sure if we would ever really use it, but what do you guys think?
I would just say as in the case of signing land contracts or purchases or whatever verbiage you want. If that's if that's about the only time you can think of it, it's good to have it written in there.
Yeah.
And then that
Shall
kind of
we-
makes sense. Otherwise, it just sort of makes your head spin.
Yeah, I would support that. It kind of gives a little bit of guidance.
Because it does say where the bylaw states that a permit or notification shall be issued by the commission. I don't understand.
For permit,
Uh,
isn't that like an old concept? We don't do that anymore, do we? It's all electronic.
Yeah, so that's part of it too. Is it back in the day?
Back in
Back in the day, a permit maybe could have not been ready again at a meeting when you voted on it and you had to have a quorum. But then somebody needed the signatures at a later date. Mateo, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so I know that for something like 20 years now or so, the commission has been operating under an old vote that it took that it doesn't need to actually sign anything, that digital signatures or just typing the name in is acceptable. And I think that this is if there were to be a scenario where something had to be signed, that sentence is essentially saying you wouldn't have to all meet as a group and to meet quorum basically to come together and sign it. You could come one by one and sign it, or the chair could be authorized to sign on behalf of everybody else. I think what's confusing in section 5 here is that there's two different things that it's talking about. One is the issue of quorum, and then the other is the issue of signing. And it seems to be saying you don't need to have quorum to sign.
Right, you need the quorum to actually vote.
Meet and vote. Don't need to all be
So
there.
maybe we need a 5-1 and a 5-2, and then maybe in the part where you don't need a quorum to vote, you could put in a line, there's a difference between electronic signature and you know, actually cursively using your name on paper.
Yeah, I can set it up as like, how is it set up? How do they look? 4, 4, 4, whatever.
Yeah, you could do a 5152.
You know, and this could be something like issuing slash signing or something like that.
Signing authority or something, yeah.
Okay. All right. Next is ANRAD's. So I had a couple things with this. The first 6-1 says the commission will accept as the application under the bylaw Mass DEP's Form 4A as filed under the Wetlands Protection Act. But then it says applicants wishing to have wetlands delineations approved by the commission pursuant to blah, 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 shall use the most current Mass DEP guidelines and forms. And it doesn't show it here, but this sentence, this first sentence was added to what was originally in here. And I think if we're gonna say that people can use the most current DEP guidelines and forms, then we shouldn't actually name the form, because this name for this form, Form 4A, might change. So we say the commission will accept as the application under the bylaw. I think we could either approved by the commission shall use the current master guidelines and forms for ANRADs. Even here, we could just say which will be accepted under the bylaw and take that first sentence out. Does that make sense? Or here we can just say I don't know, I think it repeats itself if we approved by the commission pursuant to 3 times or how's that? I'm happy. And then the next section. Required on the ANRAD form and must fulfill the ANRAD filing requirements. Submittal of a complete and accurate description of the site and project will minimize requests. This is, I think this needs to go. I don't really see a need for us to tell them that they need to submit a complete application. And as long as they do, that will minimize requests for additional information. I mean, that's kind of something that is sort of obvious, and it just doesn't seem like something that belongs in regulations. It's like a suggestion. Be sure to fill everything out or you might have to come back. I don't know. What do people think?
That's exactly what it is. It's a reminder. I don't see. I could go either way. Leave it in or take it out.
I just like that section isn't under RDAs and NOIs, but for some reason it's here under ANRADs. It just seemed kind of strange to me. Because the regulations are so structured, and sort of official. And then all of a sudden there's this thing that's like, be sure to fill out your application correctly. Oh, that's just my thought.
Let it go.
Leave it?
No, let it go.
No.
I'm happy to eliminate almost anything.
Me too. Yeah, it's make things shorter. Make things shorter. And then I had a typo. Let's see, the commission may not also, just get rid of that also. It's just the commission may require. Um, and 6.4, applicants are advised that the commission has broader jurisdiction under the bylaw and shall therefore review ANRADs concurrently under the Wetlands Protection Act, the bylaw, and the regulations. ANRAD applications shall identify. So this sentence right here, ANRAD applications shall identify all resource areas, including resource areas protected by the bylaw alone. The issue I have with that is that under an ANRAD, you can choose which resource areas you're delineating. We've had some projects like that where somebody comes forward and they say, we only want confirmed the following resource areas, BVW 1, BVW 2. We're not confirming other resource areas that might be on the site because the work isn't near other resource areas on the site itself. I think what this sentence, or what Miriam was trying to get at here, is saying that the ANRAD needs to identify all resource areas, both under the wetlands, any resource area that exists under the Wetlands Protection Act, and then also the resource areas that exist under the bylaw, like isolated vegetated wetlands, which, we regulate under the bylaw, but are not regulated under the state. So I think that's what she was trying to say, but the way it's written, it's saying they need to identify all resources on a parcel, and under ANRADs, you're actually not. If you look at the way the ANRAD form is written, you can specifically say, we are only asking these certain resource areas to be confirmed. So I'm trying to think what we can do with that. Applicants are advised that the commission has broader jurisdiction, and so therefore review the ANRADs under both the Wetlands Protection Act and the bylaw. Maybe we say ANRAD applications shall, instead of identify, it could just be something like look at all resource areas, or
State which areas they choose to have the commission make a finding on. I was thinking.
okay.
But I think I get your point. If something has wetlands and riverfront, which a lot of properties do have in Shutesbury, it would be wise to state which ones are do to throw buffer onto that particular property.
Yeah, they don't, with ANRADs, you don't necessarily have to, you just identify the resource areas that are, close to where you're doing your work. So we could just say ANRAD applications, Even we could just say resource areas protected by the bylaw shall be investigated as part of an ANRAD in addition to resource areas protected under the Wetlands Protection Act. You know, so it's not saying that they shall identify everything. It's whichever you're,
Is it more confusing if you keep the sentence in or if you take it out?
well, if we take it out, let's see how we can clarify. The Commission has broader jurisdiction under the bylaw and shall therefore review ANRAD's concurrently with the bylaw and the regulations.
That does seem like enough.
I think it is. A broader jurisdiction is basically saying additional resource areas, you know, the additional areas that are under our jurisdiction, right? Or review, let's see, therefore review ANRADs. I know there's review ANRADs. Say something like for resource areas. How about that? Until therefore review ANRADs for resource areas jurisdiction under all three of those things. That's better.
Jurisdiction or jurisdictional?
Jurisdictional ANRADs for resource areas jurisdictional under the Wetlands
Okay,
Protection Act, the
gotcha.
bylaw, and these regulations.
Yep.
Okay. All right, what time is it now? Oh, almost 9. Maybe we can make it through small projects. And then we'll be done for tonight. So small.
I'm sorry to interrupt. The
Okay.
small projects would come in front of the Conservation Commission, and we wouldn't necessarily require them to do a determination or a notice of intent. We could just say, this is a small project. You're putting in a front step on your house, and even though you're close to a resource area, you don't need to file. Is that kind of how it works?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the idea. That's the idea. And my only struggle with it was something came before us with it was with a tree removal project that came before us where it's something that fits our description of a small project permit. But to me, it's not something that is a minor project under the state. So then I got a little confused as to if a small project permit comes in, then an RDA isn't necessarily going to DEP for something that I think DEP would have required an RDA for. So that's sort of the fine line. It's like, at least for me, I'm not sure how to fix that, but so let's look at what it says. Small projects may be permitted with a small project permit where proposed work involves minimal activity or alteration deemed by the commission not to require an RDA, limited effect on the bylaw values. So that's all great under the bylaw to me. My dog wants to come in. So many pets. My son let him out. It's downstairs, but he's not letting him back in. I might have to run down in a minute. Small projects involve limited work or activity outside of any resource areas, um, except the outer 50 of the Aura and the riverfront area. 50 feet from mean high water. Okay, so the only place these can happen is in the outer 50 of the Aura or the outer 50 of riverfront.
So wait a minute. Now what were we calling them? Administrative requests, I think we were calling them. And
Yep.
we had one just down the street here. They wanted to remove 2 trees. And there is I think it was dubbed a perennial stream between the trees. But it's kind of one of those ones that's sort of an intermittent ditch. So where does that one land under this?
Was that the one?
The one on Locks Pond? With the A-frame? We
Right.
approved it under administrative. It's just gonna be 2 trees, and I think we said, you know, you have to put some erosion
Erosion
barrier
control.
around the
Right.
water, but it was
Right,
within
so
50 feet of the water.
right, so really that should be outside 50 feet from an intermittent stream and 50 feet from mean high water for a riverfront, right? So yeah, at least 50 feet from the mean high river line for perennial and also 50 feet, basically 50 feet, whether it's a wetland or intermittent stream or a river. If
So if
it's
we were doing a
over,
redo on that project today, and we had this small project permit thing in play, that wouldn't have been allowed. They would have had to do an NOI.
yeah.
Jesus, that's a lot for 2 trees.
Well, they would have to do an RDA. They wouldn't have to do an NOI. They could do an RDA. This is the small project provision, which is not an RDA or an NOI. But yeah, that was a buffer zone project. But yeah, I remember when that came through and I was like, the tree is how close to the stream? And I think it was like 8 feet. And so that was a little too close for really doing a small project permit.
So why do we have that written this way? Given that we could do that with an administrative permit before?
Yeah, all I have is this language in front of me right now, so I'm not sure what this section said when it was the administrative, that's what's in our current regulations that are, that we're following right now, that got passed last October. This section is called administrative. What was the term?
Yeah, I don't know, but it would be good to check on that because I would like to know why we would eliminate.
Administrative approval request.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Why we would eliminate that ability to take care of what is a de minimis sort of project. I mean, we've had other like 2 trees here, 2 trees there, or whatever, and it's you may be near water, but it seems like a lot to make it a big whoop.
Yeah. Well, we need to think then about how we want to write this section, because this is really the replacement of the administrative approval request section.
Yeah.
And it is saying that you have to be at least 50 feet from any resource area.
I think we should, we can go on looking at this, but maybe we want to come back and see if we want to build a loophole for certain things.
Yeah, also let's see what else it's saying. to the beginning. Yeah, it's 50 feet. And here it just kind of does a little introduction to it. On a case-by-case basis, the project's commission may find not likely to alter a resource area, can get a small project permit. Need to ensure the resource areas and their values are protected, but it's trying to create a streamlined review process. Everything has to be outside resource areas and also outside the 50 feet from the resource area line and also 50 feet from the mean high water line. Commission reserves the right to require an RDA or an NOI if they feel that the small project doesn't really meet the small project requirements.
You know, that's kind of where, with a line like that there, I think you could go back to that 50-foot cutoff and be more flexible, because if you came along there and said, well, for some reason, you know, removing a tree here would be super duper bad, you could then require something different. But the way it's written, you never get that choice inside the 50-foot line for a single tree, for example. And, you know, a tree could be a problem for all kinds of reasons, and then you're in a weird land.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe we need wiggle room on the distance.
All right, well, that's
How
something
about
you can,
May or something? You do one of those wiggly.
maybe over 50 feet.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we'd have to think about how you say it, but
Yeah, we can definitely think about it. So you're wanting to change the distance in the aura and the riverfront a little, make it.
a little more
I mean,
flexible.
I think
Projects
even
that,
with a, I was gonna say, I think even with a tree, I guess I would want to RDA if a tree is, say, within, 10 feet of the resource area. Just
we
because you're
did,
getting really close, no matter how the tree's coming down, you're getting really close at that point to a resource area.
well,
But
where
we
does
can think about
an emergency tree removal land?
Well, that's a totally
example.
different process. You can get an emergency cert, and that's written into here for anything that's a true emergency, like what happened with Miriam and her well. She got to put a curtain drain in that discharged into buffer zone under an emergency cert because it was an emergency. And that happens with a tree. If you have a tree that's gonna land on your car tomorrow, you can get an emergency cert to get the tree taken down. But it has to be proven that it's an emergency. I have to go let my dog in. I'll be right back. It's an emergency. She needs to come in.
Is he within 50 feet though? Okay.
All right, so we're still kind of questioning what that distance is within the aura and the riverfront. So we can come back.
I don't, maybe it's 10 feet, maybe it isn't. I mean, I'm trying to think of examples of things that are sort of non-impactful. Like if somebody wanted to put in a kayak rack that they pound, the 4x4s into the ground, for example, and they want it to be close to the water. You'd be within the 50 foot. You might be within 10 foot, right? You want it to be near the water. And if it's a small project, you know, would you say no because it's a kayak rack within 10 feet of the water? I don't know. There's, I don't know whether you want to limit your flexibility. You may always wind up defaulting to 10 foot, but I'm not sure if you want to write it in that way.
Well, and remember, we also have the exempt activities that are under the Wetlands Protection Act, and our bylaw accepts them. The minor activities, the minor buffer zone activities, which I could bring up. I can, maybe next time, if we want to keep talking about this, I can have ready like that list of things that are sort of this list of buffer zone activities that the state lists as minor activities, and so they're just allowed in the buffer zone without any kind of an application. And our bylaw accepts all of that list except for one activity, which I think is like decks and accessory parts to buildings is the only thing that the state allows, but our bylaw doesn't. But there is a whole, there is that list of things.
Could we stop talking?
Yeah, we're done. I think we're done. We're stuck
maybe
on this section. This got too complicated.
Make the recommendation for us all to look at this again and that thing that you're talking about for next time.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
side by side if possible.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, no, that sounds good. We'll do that. That sounds great. I'm gonna stop sharing. All right, well, thanks, everybody. I need a motion to adjourn unless there's any, oh, Bob's got his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of go on the record that I think I would lean toward being fairly liberal on what is allowed as a project that doesn't need a full permit. There will be people that want to put in a post for a clothesline or something like that. That pretty much everybody would agree doesn't require will not hurt the resource areas. But I would hate to put those people through a determination of applicability. So I guess I wanted to just go on the record saying that I would be in favor of making it more easy to do little projects. That's all. And I would also like to make
Yeah.
it a motion that we adjourn.
Okay, I forgot to mention one thing, sorry. We got a forest cutting plan. Did you guys see that? Mateo sent it around. Okay, so that was one that I think got sent to the Concom email, but maybe, Jan, did you get it?
I did.
So Mayor and Bob probably
Yeah.
didn't because they're not on that. So with these, we're just supposed to review them, and if we have any comments or whatever, I think we have 10, possibly 10 business days to respond.
The only thing I thought about that, I don't, I only had I think the one we looked at before in my brain. But that one was a lot more clear about where water was flowing. And this, I could kind of make some guesses based on topography, but I'm not sure where streams are or are not. So I felt like it was a little bit incomplete for taking a look at. I mean, I don't know. It was hard to know what I'm looking at.
Yeah, no, I had some questions about it too. When you look at the figure that came with it, I'm seeing some streams and some wetland areas. But then in the wetland section of where there's boxes for the numbers of stream crossings and the numbers of wetland crossings and filter strips and things, there's nothing in those boxes, which
Yeah.
I find kind of weird.
And the other thing that I don't know, I don't think that we encountered this before with anything I've seen. There's a segment where the hillside looks fairly steep. And I don't know, do we do something, do they recommend, it wasn't clear to me whether there's something different going on there versus where, it's not a cliff. It's really steep. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really know what I was looking at, and I'm not sure what they were doing or where they were doing it.
All right, well, because I don't think we have time to wait until our next meeting, what I can do is, contact our forester contact and just tell him that we want more information. I'll ask him about why the stream crossing section is empty and the wetland crossing section is empty, and just that the map is very vague too. It doesn't have a lot of information on it. I've seen other ones that usually provide way more information than this.
Yeah, the last one had a lot more stuff on it. You could look at it and kind of get what they were up to, but this one, I didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah, okay. I'll do that.
Does that make any difference on your deadline?
The 10-day deadline. No, I mean, we have 10 days to submit comments.
Oh, and your comment will be, we'd like to know what you're really doing.
Yeah, we want more information. And that's the thing with these. It's so weird. We don't vote on these. We just provide comments.
Oh, okay.
And,
Well,
and
so then maybe it's just a recommendation that they, take care where they're, well, and the other part of this was, it appeared that they're selective cutting the crap out.
mm,
The junk that isn't growing straight or is diseased or whatever. So this isn't
Yeah.
like the other one where they were cutting stuff. They're just getting rid of junk and turning it into cordwood. So maybe that's why all that other stuff isn't there. I don't know.
yeah. Where's the section on cutting standards harvested? Usually there's like the number of cords.
It was pretty, a couple hundred.
Quality, poor, fair.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a little bit less than detailed.
Yes. Beach, I've taken down. Well, yeah, cordwood, I see. Cordwood, 285. Yeah, I mean, my main concern is that it looks like there are some wetland areas and I don't see on here how they're protecting them. They're not really talking about it at all. And that's a problem. So I'll talk to the forester. So, all right. So we had a motion to adjourn, right?
I second. Oh, there we go. We're all seconding.
Oh, no, I was asking for a second. You second. Okay, great. All right, Rowan,
Aye.
Douglas,
Hi.
Fox,
Hi.
and Wilson. All right, we'll see whoever can come on Monday to the site visit, right?
Send us where we're actually meeting.
Okay,
Yeah, if you could send
Good
us
idea.
a reminder and a location, that'd be super. Thank you.
okay, I will do that. All right, good night, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Take care.